Welcome to Top Shelf Men. I'm Reese. Today, we're going to talk about a prime example of the old red pill saying, if you treat her like a star, she will treat you like a fan. Or the way I like to say it, if you treat her like a queen, she'll treat you like a beta. So let's take a look. And this article starts with, my husband treated me like a queen and it made me miserable. I know honorable men everywhere are treating women like sex goddesses and queens, but I'm sure that misses the point. And what's interesting is that from this article, you will see that also the author of this article also misses the point. So let's take a look. All right, this is the author and her husband. And what's kind of interesting, let's keep this in mind. She's obviously on the farther end of middle-aged. I mean, she looks like Dee Schneider. So, all right, let's see what she says. I'm twisting around to look at my ass in the mirror. My crack stretches up beyond the top of my tiny bikini my husband had just gifted me. And my cheeks peek out from the bottom. I study the pale flesh, spilling out both ends of my new suit and wonder how I could ever wear this to our son's swim meet or a family vacation. All right, so immediately what this tells me, this lady, she is not aware of the fact that she doesn't look young and youthful. At her age, she's talking about wearing a bikini that her husband gifted her that shows off a lot of her flesh. At this age, she should be dressing more conservatively. Well, let's read on. He grins and says, baby, it's perfect. You're hot. And again, he loves his wife, but this is also why you shouldn't continuously be feeding into a woman's ego, especially as she gets older, because she's going to get this big head about her that, oh, she's just as hot as the forever 21-year-olds. She's forever 21. She shops there. I feel flattered that my cleavage, I guess butt cleavage, turns him on, and then immediately anxious that he's horny and it's my responsibility to take care of it. A sex clock starts ticking down in my head, knowing he'll pout if too much time passes before he gets the intimacy he craves. And again, it's fine. As a wife, it's her duty to also please her man. That's how she keeps him. Same thing with me. I've been in long-term relationships with girls, and there were times where I had a rough day at work. Back when I was still going to college years ago, I would have a full day of work and then college, and I would come home and the girlfriend wants some. Hey, I gotta perform. So it's kind of interesting that I guess she's weaving a story. When we turn in for the night, hours later, there's a will they, won't they tension pinning me to the bed. I hope there is some amount of stillness that says, no thank you, without me having to actually say it. I dread the passive-aggressive pressure far more than I've ever dreaded sex. The next day he huffs and puffs in the kitchen. He slams the cabinet and offers only one-word answers. So he's visibly upset because, again, he's praising her. He's lying to her, telling her, oh, you look amazing, when she looks middle-aged. And she doesn't put out for him. She's not doing... This is the thing. When you get married to a girl or you live with her, you think that, oh, the frequency of the intimacy is going to increase. But in reality, unfortunately, in the feminist society that we live, oh, you should be grateful that she's being intimate with you. Instead of it being a duty, it's something you should be grateful about. And because you have to be grateful about it, that means that can stop on a whim. And this is why the ultimate long-term relationships like marriage, children, is the red pill on hard mode. Rollo says this, and the reason for that is because you have to manage to keep the burning desire in her. So what this tells me is that because she's complaining about the fact that he gets passive aggressive whenever she denies him intimacy. But what this also shows is that she's at the point where she no longer has burning desire for her husband. He hasn't worked well enough in her mind to deserve it, even though he's kissing her butt. That's why also there's a saying, you demonstrate, you don't explicate. You're not gonna get a girl all hot and bothered wanting you because you're kissing her ass. You're gonna get it is because you're hot yourself, and actually you're kind of putting her in her place. So remember that. Again, you can kind of tell that she's already being put on a pedestal, but let's read on. This was the story of my life with my husband for the first decade of our marriage. The gifts and flattery were part of a cycle that came with unspoken obligations and microblaming. when I didn't meet them. It was a theme across our entire relationship, not just with regard to sex. Again, he didn't put her down. She started to lose burning desire for him, and he basically got soft. He was like, I'm not going to tell her that she's not doing what she vowed to do as a wife. Instead, he just got passive aggressive. Again, he started with kind of taking the kid gloves on and started just being passive aggressive instead of telling her, hey, you're not putting out, I'm going to go get it somewhere else, to her face. That would have put her in her place. But no, he got passive aggressive, started pouting, started heaving and hawing because, oh, you can't be mean to women. All right. He made me lavish meals and then stared at me while I took my first bite. I found myself overperforming my pleasure with the food to validate him. He'd ask repeatedly if I liked it when my performances failed to convince him. We had an implicit agreement that I was responsible for his emotional state, and it was exhausting to me. Obviously, she wasn't taking care of him physically, so I guess she was supposed to mommy him emotionally. Admitting to myself that our dynamic was toxic was the catalyst I needed to push both of us into therapy, where we could unpack and challenge all the nonsense our families of origin had modeled. And this is part of the issue with therapy. It's that most people in the psychology field, especially when I went to college, are females. And a lot of them have this thing where you know that they are in the psychology field, not because they want to help people, it's because they intrinsically know something is mentally wrong with them and they kind of want to cure themselves without having to get help from somebody else. So when you go to a therapist, expect them to betatize you, expect them to feminize you, expect for them to always take women's side because it's a female-dominated field. And as we all know with solipsism, if your therapist is a female, she's going to be, my husband doesn't do that. Oh, my husband's not like that. So everything will be done on a measuring stick based on their gynocracy, on their gynocentric wiring. That's why therapy doesn't help the most of the time. There are good therapists out there, but they're not a dime a dozen, and they're quite rare, in my opinion. I was raised in a Southern conservative family with strict gender roles. I was expected to brush my hair, tuck in my shirt, and worship the men around me. There was no real sex education at home or at school, but I basically earned my master's in what is to be expected of a woman. My mother was chronically responsible for my father's emotional state, in addition to most of the housework and a full-time job. And considering the fact that she's middle-aged now, her mother was from an even further back generations, and the reality was that life was affordable, where a one-income household got you a house, a car or two, and vacations once or twice a year. So this also, again, it shows you that her mother was a little bit feminist for working a full-time job. Again, this might work with a millennial or a Zoomer that's like, oh yeah, men and women both have to work. But no, look at her. She's middle-aged. Back in her generation, the fact that the woman worked was usually an option or a luxury. Let's read on. There were no healthy mutual partnerships in my husband's upbringing either. His father was always in charge, even if he didn't know what he was talking about. And he brutally dominated the family and any business contacts who crossed his path. As one of 4 boys, my husband learned to revere female anatomy, but not to understand it. Oh, God. There's a lot of feminism in this to unpack. So you can see with her talking about partnerships, instead of saying husband and wife, she ascribes to the blank slate theory. She's a hardcore feminist. And even though this guy was raised in a proper household with the father being the head, he might have not always been correct, but the father was the head of the household and the decisions had to be made with his approval. Even though the guy had the right upbringing, you can see that she has brainwashed her husband into believing this feminist crap, which has coincidentally also made her lose hot, burning desire for her own husband. So it's interesting. So mind you, there had to be a time when they met, when they were dating, where she had hot, burning, genuine desire for this guy. And then after marriage, oh, I'm scared when he asks me for intimacy because I don't want to do it with him. But yet his upbringing was masculine, and now she betatized him. But and yet she doesn't know why, but she just doesn't want to be intimate with him. This is why you don't listen to women, especially when it comes to relationships. Let's read on. In therapy, we started to see our conditioning more clearly. We learned we are each responsible for determining and communicating what we want, and for giving the other person the compassion and space to do the same. Because they're a partnership, they're equal. Men and women are exactly the same, they're interchangeable. I mean, look at the MCU. My husband learned to take everything less personally and to manage his feelings of rejection with a bit more grace. We still work in therapy to untangle our codependent patterns and take responsibility for ourselves. Yeah, because the problem is that she's not putting out and she's not doing her wifely duties, and it's his fault. This new perspective allowed me to step into a leadership role in our life and home. So now she's the man. I realized I wanted true equal partnership. So I started to assert myself and worry less about his response. My husband had to relearn his beliefs about leadership too, and to accept how important it is to be an enthusiastic follower. So she goes to therapy, and the therapist says, okay, since men and women are exactly the same, because the therapist is obviously a feminist too, now you, the wife, who doesn't want to put out for your husband because you don't feel attracted to him because you betatized him, now you be the man, and he's going to do whatever you say. It's more of what made her unattracted to her husband, and they're gonna double down and go down harder on it. Oh, God. Our new, healthier marriage requires that I confront him regularly and elbow my perspective onto the table for consideration, since we were both raised to prioritize only his. It was during one of these pivotal confrontations when I accidentally sparked the best thing that ever happened to our sex life. She brought up pegging? We occasionally read nonfiction books at the same time, book club style. Oh, God. I guess they had imaginary tea parties too. And one day I confronted him about his recommendations. I complained that he was in an echo chamber of white men who don't acknowledge the patriarchy, white supremacy, or the privilege they receive from those systems. I couldn't get past the ignorance to receive the lessons from the books I told him. And holy crap, he listened. So she just betatized him further. Oh, God. This goes to the meme I like to show, where women think they want to be with a woman. I'm sorry, they want to be with a man who acts like a woman. And they think that temporarily, they think that this is ideal until they're completely turned off by it. They just don't know why. And that's why also with lesbian relationships, you have extremely high domestic abuse rates, more than any other kind of relationship, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual. Lesbians have the highest domestic abuse rates because, again, mentally, they're like, oh, I want him to be like another girl. But then when they have it, they hate it. They can't stand it. All right, so let's see what was next. His next book recommendation was Emily Nagoski's Come As You Are, and I was so excited that he was suggesting a patriarchy-smashing author. And I bet you she makes him sit down to pee now. I don't even mind the book was about sex. Turns out feeling heard is a bit of a turn-on for me. Who knew? Nagoski's book demystifies intimacy and genitalia and makes a very strong case that we all have the same parts organized in different ways. It doubles down on the blank slate bullshit men and women are exactly the same. The author makes this point so often that the reader really can't help but feel deeply connected to every other body on the planet with each turn of the page. So now this looks like she's shilling for this book that brainwashes people into more blank slate crap. This flattened our confusing hierarchy where I was desired but objectified and made us equals at last. What a relief to dismantle that pedestal he had me on. I never really felt safe up there. And oh my God, right here, she perfectly describes the pedestal meme. The next thing he did was plan an entire date around the book. He owned the project of incorporating the information into our life, because he's a woman now, And his emotional labor felt like love to me in a way my drawer full of slutty bikinis didn't. Oh, he's no longer objectifying her in her mind. He's another girl now. He read and recommended the book and invited me to a scheduled date on my calendar. Yeah, because she's the man now. She's more important than him. Which might not sound sexy, but it feels like steaming hot consent to me. He completed the accompanying worksheets, set up activities, and I'm sure he also gave her, what are those called? Consent forms. Like, do you consent to me kissing you? Like, have her sign each one before he touches her. Going back, he completed the accompanying worksheets, set up activities, and led the conversation to discover our most mutually pleased sexual context, as the book recommends. Nagoski describes sexual context as all the things happening around and inside the people having the sexual experience, each person's mental state, the relationship dynamics, and little details like the temperature of the room and the scent of the candle all make up the context. Can you get more beta than that? My husband and I have been putting too much pressure on the act and not enough focus on all the other things that are going around it. Our cat and mouse dynamic was giving me anxiety because my feelings and making him resentful. So our mental states were not ready for pleasure because she had no burning desire for him because he put her on a pedestal. She betatized him. Now got turned off to him, and now she's betatizing him more. She's metaphorically putting a tutu on him, and now she thinks she's turned on. As we worked through that big foundational dynamic with our counselor, we started experimenting with the setting details. We learned to set up a space heater and make a bed by the fireplace because I need heat. We went on a date to mix up our own salty tropical scent so we could be reminded of sexy vacations. We kept the practice of scheduling connection time so I get a chance to look ahead in my calendar and carve our date nights and their happy endings. Co-creating, because they're a partnership, a sexual context was fun and helped remind us that mutual pleasure is the only goal. And mind you, so far she has only listed things she wanted. So she keeps talking about this equalism, mutual shit, when the therapist basically made her the man in the relationship and made him the woman. But all she lists is the things that she wants. Our optimal context honors our individual preferences while casting us in an act where we are utterly equal. I know honorable men everywhere are treating women like sex goddesses and queens, but I'm pretty sure that misses the point. If the goal is a reciprocal sexy partnership, no one really needs the royal treatment. I'm grateful to have learned it was actually standing in the way of what my husband and I really want. I'm not a queen or a goddess. I'm a person with a body. So is he. We have so much more pleasure when we acknowledge that. Oh my God. That is a lot to unpack. So let's summarize what we read. She feels stressed out because whenever this guy puts her on a pedestal, he betatizes himself. Oh, queen, you look so great in your bikini, even though you're middle-aged and you're like people are looking at the flesh from the crack of your butt. He keeps betatizing her, so she feels, oh, he's praising me, so he's gonna want some intimacy. She doesn't want to put out because she has lost genuine burning desire for him. So her idea is, oh, I need to blame something else because I don't want to do my wifely duties. So let's go to therapy. Now the therapist suggests, oh, you guys are in an equal partnership because most therapists are hardcore feminists. And now they're doing a role reversal where you guys are going to have these dates and the wife is going to be in the position of the husband and the husband is going to become the wife. And they're doing this role reversal. Now she's thinking, oh, this is kinky because it's different for her. And she's got, now they're no longer husband and wife. Now they're partners. And as partners, they have to cater to her because now she's acting like the man. So with this role reversal, now she's, oh, I'm all excited. This relationship's all kinky for me. Except that now she's further betatizing him. And in time, she's going to feel disgusted with him because he's going to settle into becoming her beta and into his beta role. Now, not just putting her on a pedestal and praising her, but actually being like, honey, we have to cater everything to you. And then once she feels disgusted by this, I promise you, she will start looking elsewhere. She will monkey branch. She's gonna be like, oh, I guess we just grew apart. And she's either gonna cheat on him with a Chad or Tyrone, or she's gonna hit him with a divorce. This article was written a little bit over a year ago. So yeah, let's take a look to see what this author, Holly Terry, ends up with, because I can tell you, I have a crystal ball and I can foresee the future. With him accepting her betatizing him, at first it's gonna be, oh, pleasant. It's gonna be, oh, he's in touch with his feminine side. It's making me happy and it's making me excited because now I have this power dynamic where I'm like acting like the man. But at the end, she's gonna be disgusted by him, and then she's gonna look to monkey branch away because simply they grew apart. So what do you guys think is gonna happen with this relationship? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for listening to this video to the end. If you enjoyed this content, leave a like and subscribe for more. As this channel grows, I want to help build a community around this of men that support each other, make our own internet tribe of men. Thank you for listening to the end. This is Reese. See you next video, guys. Peace.